Hey guys, welcome to An Idiot Mod Skyrim, part 17, food, drink and a bit of a chat. It's a weird collection of mods here today. Let's not waste any time, let's go straight onto the Nexus and see what we have installed today. And the first mod is Follower Commentary Overhaul, or FCO, by Tazarian. The mod author states it best when he found the Skyrim followers have a problem. They're boring. Once you've recruited them, 99% of them turn into mute robots whose entire purpose is summed up in 3 directives. 1 is to kill the enemy, 2 is to look cool, and 3 is to carry our burdens. They go on to state that after follower mods such as the superlative Inigo, normal vanilla followers seem a little bit bland, they don't seem to chat very much, they don't seem to interact with their environments, so he's tried to remedy it by going into the game and releasing over 1,000 lines of dialogue for the 18 vanilla followers. Before we go any further, I should draw your attention to these images up here. There are subtypes of voices for different characters that we have. So obviously the Khajiit ones are Jago and Kajo. You might want to refer back to this in future. We'll go on more about this when we actually get in game. There is a way of stopping your followers being too chatty. There's an MCM menu and you can reduce how often they chat. As usual, I will let you guys peruse the FAQs at your leisure. But I think that's it for this one. Let's go on to Files and Download with Manager. Yes, we have SkyUI. Second mod is Harvest Overhaul by Omletta and Zubaku. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Once again, I'll leave it to the mod authors to describe it when they say, have you ever wondered what happens to the other 2 death bells after you harvest it? Or the 5 nightshades? Or the dozen mountain flowers? Where do they go if you only harvest the 1? Does the Dragonborn throw them all on the floor and walk away? Do you want to get the appropriate amount after you harvest flora, but at the same time keep the game balanced? If yes, then this is a mod for you. There is also a recommended harvest animation mod for those of you who want to have that next step of immersion. I believe it's a 3rd person animation. What this mod does is increase the amount you get when you harvest the flora. Essential if you're playing a mage or alchemist type character, but it does try and do this in a random way, so sometimes you might get the maximum amount, so I believe it's 12 mountain flowers is the most you can get from sort of a 3 bush cluster. Other times you may only get the 3. It's a bit random, and there are ways of toning it down in game thanks to the MCM menu. Now Magrio wasn't much of a alchemist. What he was though was using a mod that forced him to eat, and for that reason Harvest Overhaul now also includes creatures. And it does a very similar thing to the way that you harvest flora when it comes to the wildlife. So instead of 1 rabbit leg, you'll probably get 2. Hawks will have more feathers. What they have done though is remove the amount of gold and random gems you'll find inside animals. So you'll no longer be finding a diamond gold ring inside that skeevy you've just killed. Installation is recommended through a mod manager, and it is recommended that we have the Skyrim script extender and SkyUI installed, both of which you should have if you've been following my series. Under compatibility, this mod does work with a couple of mods that I'm interested in looking at, Frostfall that we already have, and I Need, which is going to be installed later today. If you are using a different needs mod, so realistic needs and diseases, or IMP's more complex needs, I believe they are patched during the installation process, as is Skyrim Redone and Skybirds. I think that's it for this one. Let's go on to Files, and you want to download with Manager. You will also notice there are a couple of optional files here. There's a readme and data tables for those of you who want to read those kind of things. I believe this does actually include the sort of amounts you can expect to get from the flora and fauna. But there is also a Skyrim Redone pre-Dawn Guide compatibility patch for those of you who only have Skyrim without any of the DLCs but still want to use this with Skyrim Redone. Penultimate mod for today is I Need Food, Water and Sleep by Isoku. You may recognise the name, that's the mod author that did Wet and Cold. And as with Wet and Cold, this mod does gain certain benefits from having other mods installed. So SKSE and SkyUI will enable us to have the widgets as well as the MCM menu to configure this mod. There is an optional I Need Dangerous Diseases built into this mod for those of you who want that. And it does take advantage of us having Wet and Cold if we want to use the food spoilage part of this mod. What this mod does basically is require your character to now eat, sleep and drink on regular basis, and it will notify you in several ways. You can have on-screen widgets, sounds such as a grumbling stomach, coughing and yawning, and if you want you can also have text messages telling you when you feel slightly hungry, slightly sleepy, and then as your needs increase you'll get more information. There's also a section here on how to obtain things like water. I'll let you guys read that to your leisure. I will point out that you do get some buffs and some debuffs from either remaining full or not maintaining your levels correctly. Things like combat will increase your need primarily for fatigue, and alcohol and skooma can make effects if you drink enough of it. Under compatibility we should be fine, although as I am using Percus Maximus, if I want to use the Dangerous Diseases plugin from this mod I'm going to have to add that to the block list. I may do that in a future episode, but at the time being I wasn't using the Dangerous Diseases ESP anyway, and this mod does work rather well with iHUD. As with all the mods today, it's recommended we use a mod manager and that we have SkyUI and SKSE. But I think that's it for here. We need to go along to downloads and download a manager. And the final mod for today is Pumping Iron Dynamic Muscle Growth by Gopher. Now I added this mod for a very similar reason to why Gopher created it, and that is that my character was a bit of a weed at the start of my playthrough. With Gopher it was Richard the Librarian, who was a scholar, not a warrior, and he created this mod so you could see him bulk up as he went round adventuring in Skyrim. With my character it's slightly different. I figured that Magrio probably did have some muscle condition as he was travelling up through Cyrodiil up into Skyrim, maybe working as muscle for hire for things like caravans etc, but then took a rather vicious injury thanks to Inigo and has been laid up for several months recovering, and all of his muscle condition has wasted away. The way this mod works is that every time your character gains a skill increase in either combat or smithing, his muscles will be considered to have trained a little, and the more you gain skills the more training you get. The reason I'm installing it now is that the only way that you actually gain any benefit from all this training is that when you sleep you put on a small amount of muscle growth. So adding it now with I Need, a mod that requires you to sleep, made sense. As with all the mods today, requirements are SKSE and the SkyUI is recommended, and we should use a mod manager. Should be compatible with anything we have installed so far, and there's a small FAQ if you want to take a look through. That's it for here. Let's go on to files and download with manager. Right, so that's everything downloaded. Let's go on to mod organizer and get this lot installed. Right, so let's go on to downloads, and I believe they're just standard installations for these guys. So as usual, double click on follower commentary overhaul and manual, and looks good, so we can click OK and we can enable that one. The harvest overhaul comes with an installer. So what DLCs do we have? Are we vanilla game? Do we have Dragonborn and Dawnguard, or just Dragonborn? Well, I have both of those. I do not need the Skyrim redone compatibility. I am using a large amount of the Skyrim redone in my playthrough, but I was not using it for the perk tree. So I don't need the Wayfarer perk tree green thumb perk, so I don't need this patch. All of my perks are being handled by Percus Maximus. I don't use Skybirds, so I don't need that. The harvest overhaul creatures, once again, Dawnguard and Dragonborn. I don't have realistic needs and diseases, so I don't need any of this. And I don't have imps more complex needs either, so I don't need any of this. If you do, you want to select the correct selections for yourself and then install and enable that. Next mod is I Need. We only have one option here. We have to install the core files. Do we want the dangerous diseases? At the moment, no, I wasn't using it in my playthrough so far, so I'm going to leave it off and install and enable it. And there is Pumping Iron. Double click, manual, looks good, click OK and enable. So I'm going to go to the plugins and quickly go through loot just to get them in the right places. I'm going to sort plugins and I'm going to apply and then close. Let's have a quick look, see where things are. So follow commentary overhaul is all the way up here up by Skyfall Sky Mills, and the rest of the things have all been left down the bottom, which is fine. I just want to move purity down, which is there, and drag it down the bottom again. I can leave those where they are for the time being, and all that's left to do is go in game and see what changes we've made. Right, yeah, you're not seeing things. There is 2 Genessas. I'm also enabling I need, so I can't open the MCM menu.
I can tell you're no stranger to the wilds. I'm sure we can meet your hunting needs.
Just waiting for the MCM menus to kick in. The reasons we have 2 Genessas here is that the one on the left is the one that's being controlled by the follower commentary overhaul. The one on the right is just your basic vanilla Genessa.
Some of these nodes will come up with any excuse to
It's going to take about a minute for my MCMs to kick in, so while we're waiting, I will just let her chat away. You'll notice the one on the right isn't chatting much.
We sell bows, arrows, and ale. A unique combination.
Well, like Illandir, who won't shut up.
If you have need of hunting supplies, then you've come to the right place.
In his mind, to refuse his claim is to side with the Empire.
I can tell you're no stranger to the wilds. I'm sure we can meet your hunting needs.
Think of it.
I can tell you're no stranger to the wilds.
Yeah, I didn't get the picture. She's not very chatty vanilla-wise, but she's very chatty with FCO, so I can say bye-bye to her. You'll now notice we have 3 icons down the bottom right of our screen. These are our I need notifications. They're white at the moment, and it means that I am totally fine. I am not hungry, not thirsty, nor am I fatigued. The colours on these will change to yellow and red as we become more in need, so as we become more hungry, the apple will change from yellow to red, I believe. I am changing that so that we don't have those icons on screen all the time. I want them to fade in as I become slightly hungry, thirsty or fatigued. We'll do that when the MCM menus are here, so I'll join you for that in a few seconds. Right, so our MCM menus are in. Let's just make a start. So down to mod configuration. I'm going to start with FCO since it's the first one in front of us. And you'll notice we have a frequency. Now, in the little bit you've seen, Genessa was chatting every 15 to 20 seconds. We can reduce that down to about half, I find. Seems to be about right. That way they chirp in a couple of times a minute. May give you some information about what's going on in the local area. So I'm going to select that. And you will notice now we have female voice types and male voice types. And for example, if you wanted a Khajiit follower to just use his normal Khajiit lines rather than the ones that are released by the mod, you uncheck the box. So now Kajo and Jago will only use the scripted lines they have rather than the extra ones. I want them to use every single line they can. The same with Genessa here. If I wanted her to just use her scripted lines, I could just use that to take it away, and she'll only go back to using the default script that she has. So I'm going to leave it checked. And let's go on to some next one. Now I'm going to go down to pumping iron, as this is one of those mods that the sooner you get it in, the sooner you'll actually start seeing it on your character. As you'll see, my body weight is 40 and my current training is 0.00, and I cannot expect that to rise very quickly. As I'm using a level 50 character for doing this testing, he's not going to increase skills at a rapid rate like you do at the beginning of the game, and therefore his training will be minimal, so I can't expect to see much improvement on his scale. So as I said, get this in as early as possible if you want to use it. But we'll go to I need, which is a mod that will complement the one you just had, as you do need to sleep. Let's go into basics. It's enabled. I would leave the hunger rate, thirst rate and fatigue rate at 4 for the time being. Give it a few hours playing about. If you find you're getting too hungry too often, then you might want to decrease it. If you don't think you're getting hungry enough, then increase it. The eat sleep animations, I'm going to enable it when I'm sitting only. And I don't want to force the camera to look at me when I'm eating. If I want to look at myself, I'll move the camera around and take a look at myself eating that piece of bread or whatever I've just had. Visible water skins we can leave disabled, as Frostfall takes care of having them on your backpack. I'm going to go over to timescale. I'm going to check the box I'm going to open the slider. Now at the moment you'll see it's set to 20. That means that for every minute we're playing the game, 20 minutes pass in Skyrim. You can reduce this all the way down to 8, so that for every minute you're playing, 8 minutes pass in Skyrim. The general rule of thumb is around the 10 mark, and that's the one I've been running it on. You can override this by using the console, using the tilde key, open up the console, type in set timescale, and then put the number at the end that you want it setting to. It is recommended that you do not go below 6. There are people on forums who say they're running this at 1:1, however that doesn't seem to work for the majority, and 6 seems to be about the safe area. Any lower than that can cause some problems with quests either not working or totally just crashing out. So as I said, I'm leaving mine at 10 for the time being. I don't want an eat hotkey, I don't want a drink hotkey, I don't want a sit hotkey. I really don't like the idea of automatic eating and drinking. I like to know where my food's going when I'm eating it. I know you can get notifications, but I think it sounds a bit weird, middle of the fight and you stop for a meal. In advanced, do I want my followers to have needs? Well, I'm going to be carrying around enough food for myself, let alone them, so no. Substance impairment, so do we want alcohol or skooma or both to affect us? Well, too much of either will do us some problems, so that's fine by me. Harmful raw food, for a human character like myself, I would say yes. If you're playing a werewolf, obviously you want to uncheck that pretty quickly, but because I'm playing Khajiit, I figure that their metabolism is probably slightly stronger than a normal human's, so I have unchecked this for Magrio, but I'm leaving it checked for Edward. I'm definitely not a cannibal, nor am I a vampire. There are 3 options in vampire. There is mortal, hybrid and pure. Mortal means that food and blood will lower hunger and thirst, and sleep and blood will lower your fatigue. Under hybrid, the only thing you have to worry about is fatigue, so sleep and blood are the only things that will lower it, and under pure, the only thing you need is blood. I'm leaving it under hybrid. Satiation and hydration multiplier. Once again, I would recommend that you leave these as they are and experiment as you go along. If you find food isn't filling you enough, you might want to decrease it. If you find food's overfilling you, you might want to increase it. Same with water. No salt requirements. I'm going to check this, although I haven't noticed any difference when I've been testing in game anyway. When I was using the cooking pot earlier, I still needed salt. And under no food effects, I'm leaving that unchecked. Sometimes we eat food to get the effects. Under difficulty, valued harvest I'm leaving unchecked. If you check this, you may get a bounty or have to pay for anything you pick as you walk through a farmer's field. Under food removal, I'm going to leave it disabled. Enabling this will remove some food from barrels and sacks and replace it with salt piles, and you only get one chance of doing this. If you enable it, you cannot disable it in future. So I would recommend running with disabled. The same with food spoilage. The food I'm carrying, I don't want it to go off, so I'm going to leave that disabled. If you do enable it, you can alter the rate at which food will spoil, and in cold areas it will spoil at a slower rate. Combat increases needs, well that makes sense, especially when it comes to fatigue. You'll get tired after a battle, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Breakable water skins, don't want that to happen. After the fact that the water skins are going to be on the back of us, on our backpacks, and should get some protection there, so I'm going to leave that off. Reduce carry weight, I am going to totally ignore for the time being. I have some mods that are coming that will increase the weight of certain things we're already carrying, and reducing it now doesn't make sense. Because I didn't choose to install the dangerous diseases when I was enabling this mod, I can't enable this, and I'm not going to enable the death either. I'm going to leave the increased food weight value at just weight. Alcohol dehydrates isn't something that's going to affect my character. He's not a big drinker anyway. You may find that if you're having a problem, you might want to add that just to add that extra effect. So on the notifications, I want to do some changes really. I'm quite happy to have the sound effects of hunger, thirst and fatigue, so the rumbling belly, the cough and the yawn when I'm starting to get hungry, thirsty and tired. But I don't want the text messages. They come up in the third person, so it's up here in the top left hand side, telling you I'm feeling slightly hungry, and then it tells you that you've just eaten something or drank something. Not something I really want. If you do, then you want to enable it and set it up as you want. I would recommend that you use this if you are using disease, because it will give you an idea of how your disease is progressing if you've not cured it. and you can also set up a hotkey just to check your status. So under the widgets I'm going to do some changes. I want to change it to an alpha based rather than a colour based notification. I want the default colour to be white. The position, orientation, where they are is perfectly fine by me. I don't need to track a disease because I haven't got one. So we're done in there. All that's left to do now is the harvest overhaul. So let's do the main file first. We have a floral light, a pseudo light and a food light mode. Floral light mode means it will reduce the amount of things that you pick as you go by. The pseudo light will just reduce the amount of mountain flowers and spiky grass that you get, and the food light mode will reduce the amount of food you get from hanging animals and crops. But it doesn't affect the things like wheat. If you want to affect things like wheat, then you want to use the floral light mode. If you're toying with the idea of disabling the amount of food you have in barrels, you might want to do this one first and see if that makes an effect. But for the time being, I'm going to leave all these unchecked. We'll have a quick look at them and maybe decide to change things in future. Compatibility options. I want the hanging salmon to have roe. Oysters always have pearls. If you want to get rich quick, I suppose you can enable this one. I did read somewhere that any oyster you can eat will never provide pearls. So for realism's sake, I'm leaving that unchecked. Harvest overhaul creature items. Yes please. Hanging rabbits have hearts. Yes, although in the testing I've done, it wasn't the hanging rabbits that had hearts, it was the ones that you hunt. Another way of getting rich quick is to change the coin purse options. You see we have it set for vanilla. You can have it set for about 100 gold, so every purse you find will have approximately 100 gold in it, give or take. I'm leaving it at vanilla. It's nice to be a little bit skinned at the start of the game. Then we have the chance of the first, second and third regular gems, and the chance of first and second flawless gems. Now I'm not in this game to get rich quick, so let's start by setting the first one at about 1 in 5. So 1 in 5 coin purses will have a gem in it. Second one I'm going to only have at 10%, because we now have, of the 1 in 5 purses that we find, we have a 1 in 10 chance of those having a gem in it. So that's what, 1 in 50? Then under the third gem, I'm going to reduce that again. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance that I'll get a gem in there. Under the first flawless gem, I'm going to set it down at 1%. So that's 1 in 100 I will find a flawless gem. And the second one, I'm also going to set that 100%. So that of the 1 in 100 I find with 1 in it, there's 1 in 10,000 will have a second flawless gem. There is a chance here to get rich quick in this game if you have these all set to the maximum. I'm not playing it that way. I want to increase my wealth slowly, so I'm going to run with that for the time being. I may even decrease these as we go along. Then into the harvest overhaul creatures, and we're nearly done. No new meats and recipes. Well, why have this if there's no new meats and recipes? So I want them. I want the new animal loot. Full loot for mammoths, or 1/3, 2/3 or full. I'll leave it on full. For the sake of the fact that Magrio is a Khajiit and therefore is slightly related to saber cats, I'm going to leave the recipes disabled. It's also law friendly that way, I believe. It's not the greatest thing. It's a bit frowned upon to eat saber cat. Humanoid options. Well, I'm travelling with the vampire at the moment, so I want the flesh recovered. I only want the chance for 1 flesh recovered, please. Only Dremora have Dedra hearts, or lurkers have Dedra hearts, seekers have Dedra hearts, lurkers and seekers have Dedra hearts. No, I'm going to stick with Dremora only. And vampires now have blood potions, so I can pass them on to Serana. Expanded recipes, yes please. Scroll crafting recipes, yes please. Even though neither of the characters I'm using right now is a massive mage, it's nice to have them hanging about if need be, and you can always pass them on to people who are a bit better with magic. And under crushing recipes, I'm not the biggest alchemist, but I can understand the want to maybe have things like bone meal created either at forges or at grain mills, or both. So you can now use your hammer to crush down bones, or you can use the mill that makes flour to crush down bones for you instead. Crushing mammoth tusks and crushing dragon bone, for you alchemists out there, that's probably going to be a must, but for me, I'm going to leave that off. Right, so that's the dull parts of the MCMs done. Let's go have a wander around Skyrim, kill some creatures, pick some flowers, and eat some food. Right, so before we get off, I suppose we get some supplies sorted out. Just painting a breeze home and loot with it for all the food you can see normally. Just going to make some stuff at the tiny rack to go with us.
I like that.
Now, we're going to need something to carry water in. So we're going to need some water skins. And to do that, we need a piece of leather and some leather strips. I'm just going to make a few bits of leather. So I'll make 3. And you'll see we have empty water skins. So I'm going to make 3 of these.
Well, you actually did what you said.
Each
you were
water
going
skin
to.
carries enough water for 3 sips. And 2 sips is usually enough to hydrate you. To fill the water skins, you can normally go into an inn and it will cost you 5 gold to refill a single water skin, no matter whether you've emptied it or only had 1 sip out of it. But we can use wells to refill water skins for free. Now I know there's a well here in Whiterun. I believe there's one up in Solitude as well. Not sure about anywhere else. You can also refill your water skins at friends' houses, if you have any friends. And if you have any water butts and things like that outside your home, so you can now buy bits to build water butts. So if you put one here outside Breeze home, it will catch the rain that falls off the roof and you can refill it there. I believe you can also use the bases of waterfalls and certain places where there is snow. We'll have to experiment with that as we go around. But for the time being, let's just go for a wander in the wilds, do a little bit of hunting, build a campfire, do a bit of cooking, see what happens to our skills as and when we need drinks and food. As you can see now though, we do have a water skin on our backpack, signifying that we have at least 1 water skin with water in it. Right, so as we wander down here, I'm just going to hit my harvest hotkey and we'll harvest as we go. So there are 3 mountain flowers, 5 mountain flowers, a single one, tundra cotton, 3 tundra cotton, 2 tundra cotton.
I should get over to Windhelm more. See how the other Morrowind refugees are.
Another single. And then 8s, 5s and 9s. If you find that those numbers are getting a little bit too high, we can go into our MCM menu, come down to Harvest Overhaul, and I'm going to go into Floralite and Pseudolite mode. So that means that anything we harvest that is flora should be reduced, and things like the mountain flowers and spiky grass are also going to be reduced as well. Let's see if that's made a change as we go by. So again, harvest key, single tundra cotton this time.
Wary of traps. If you spy one, try to get an enemy to trigger it.
2 lavenders. It's a lot more singles this time, isn't it? Right, when it comes to hunting, isn't there normally deer around here somewhere?
I heard a traveller say that Helgen was destroyed by one of those creatures.
So let's go and have a look at what we can find. Just going to re-hotkey some things. Yeah, another thing I was in at the Drunken Huntsman was I have bought myself a new longbow. So I'm going to try that out. What arrows are we using at the moment? Using glass arrows, that's fine. Right, what have we got? We have a deer. And do we also have a crab there? We have a crab. I hate when it does that. Better. We also have a wolf. Right, so that's a little bit of hunting done. Let's go and harvest our kills. Obviously be aware there's another bud crab there that may come and say hello. Right, so the mud crab, we're getting a lot more chitin and more legs. And the deer gives us our arrow back, deer hide, large antlers, and now 2 venison rather than the normal 1. And we get a glass arrow, 2 canine teeth, and wolf meat. I believe you can cook it, so I'll take it for the time being. Mountain flowers, 2, and only 2. So yeah, that's cut down by quite a lot, isn't it? From what we were getting. Right, so let's go for a wander round. What I'm going to do, guys, is off camera we'll probably go for a quick ride around Skyrim. Wait till I'm a little bit thirsty, a little bit hungry, maybe get some fatigued in.
Come up with any excuse to despise us.
Get some fighting done, and we will see you probably when we're setting up camp, and we'll see what debuffs and buffs we get from eating and sleeping, etc. happen. Okay? Doesn't increase the amount of stuff you get from dragons though.
Well, you actually did what you said you were going to do. I'm impressed.
Time together is proving mutually beneficial, I think.
You will however notice that we are now starting to get human flesh when we meet up with, well, humans. And I've just had a cough, that means I'm starting to get a little bit on the thirsty side. Just look at the rest of these guys and then we'll have a look at that. Right, so let's go into our active effects. You'll see there's nothing there yet saying that we're feeling thirsty. So there's no worries there. We just started to feel thirsty. And we have a half tone in the bottom right hand side saying that we're a little thirsty. Right, so we've been out here for several hours, done a bit of hunting, killed a few bad guys, picked up quite a bit of food. But first thing I want to do is actually see what these effects are from being rather hungry, rather thirsty and slightly fatigued. So let's have a look in magic, and we have exposure cold, which is fair enough. We have mild hunger, which means our health regenerates and our damage output are both reduced by 20%. We have moderate thirst, which means times between shouts are 40% reduced, and stamina and magicka regenerate at 40% slower rate. So while we're still out here, I'm going to use the fire. I'm going to cook myself some food. Now, I won't get any salt requirements at all from this. This is part of campfires anyway, so I might as well just cook as much food as I can while I'm here. Right, so let's go and get some of this stuff sorted. So I need to eat something. Now, the general rule of thumb is that you eat the heaviest thing first and then fill up with little things. So beef is, let's have a look, what's the heaviest thing I've got to actually cooked. So venison chops, they weigh 3, so I'll eat one of those, and I will have an apple, maybe a bit of cheese, and I'm now sated. That means I'm full. I'm also going to have, let's have a look, now some milk and some water. Milk didn't register as a thirst. Water does. I'm feeling hydrated. Right, so let's see what added effects we get from those. From well hydrated, the time between shouts is reduced by 5%, and stamina and magic regeneration are increased by 5%. And by being well sated, we have health regeneration and damage output are both increased by 5%, and a varied diet gives us a health increase of 10 points. So you see, the buffs and debuffs are quite substantial. I could stay here and wait until I actually want to go to sleep, but I think I've taken up enough of your guys' time. Now I know there's been a bit of a mixed bunch, but I hope you see that things like I Need and the Harvest Overhaul work hand in hand on top of Frostfall and Campfires to give you that sort of survival type gameplay. There are some other mods you can add. I think it's Hunterborn is one. I will try and find it out and put it down below in the description, where you can actually skin and dress your kills before you actually do anything with them. So that if you want to play a hunter type character, that would be an ideal mod for you. It wasn't in my load order, but I'll try and dig it out, and for those of you who might be interested in it. And as I said, I think I've taken up enough of yours guys' time. If this has helped, drop us a like, write us a comment, maybe subscribe. A big thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Yeah, any good, Janessa, you'd have to let you praying to me, honestly. Go on, go away, guys.